Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan, that's Hassan, that's Dan, and today we're talking about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. If this feels like it's coming out of left field for you, look at your calendar, because it's almost time for Obi-Wan, the show. Well, it's called Kenobi, but we've got an interesting panel here.
Wait,
from what
is it actually just called Kenobi? I thought it was
it's
called
just
the
called
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh.
I believe it's just called Kenobi.
It's a good name.
Just like the Ahsoka show is just called Ahsoka. But we have an interesting panel here today, filled with me, who doesn't like this show, Dan, Dan, who sort of likes this movie.
I really enjoy the movie. I like
and then Hassan, who's never seen
prequels.
So
I just did, though.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I think things. Leave it at that. I have thoughts. I have questions.
Let's get into your like overall, Hassan, your overall thoughts of the movie, since I think that's going to be the most interesting of someone who's seeing it now for the first time.
I'm very curious to hear this.
Dude, if you don't know who these people are, they don't explain it. They really don't. You're like thrusting the plot. And I'm like, I know who Qui-Gon Jinn. So I was telling them before we hit record, I've never seen it, but obviously like I existed for the last 20 years in the pop culture space, so I know the characters, I know everybody's names, which is super helpful because you're just kind of tossed into the mix, which I think is a cool idea, but there's not even like a wink nudge of like, hey, this is I'm Qui-Gon Jinn, or Obi-Wan, come here. It's like, no, we're doing shit. We'll name you later, and that's fine. Okay, so overall opinions. I recognize the things people would hate about this movie, like Jar Jar Binks, and I think that maybe if I was, a 4-year-old and didn't have a lot of anything going on in my mind, I might really, really enjoy it. Other than that, I know what year this was made. I understand CGI has come a long way. The fuck is wrong with Jar Jar Binks? What the fuck is wrong with all of the polygons, the textures? It looks worse than Kingdom Hearts 2 in the PlayStation 2.
I don't know if you know like the history of these movies and how they've like never been stopped being worked on, but the version that you watched was not the version that came out in 1999. George Lucas famously, with the prequels and the original trilogy, went back over the years and released special editions that added things like CG monsters. And like one of the biggest changes they made to this one was in this movie, originally Yoda was a puppet still. But they went back in one of the special editions and completely replaced him with the CG Yoda that you'll see in the next episode and the episode after. So that's like basically any scene where you see a CG monster like walk in the background or in the front or whatever wasn't there originally.
Yoda didn't look that terrible. He honestly didn't.
Yoda looks great.
A lot of the scenes. Yoda looked awesome. I think it's because they had a lot of I'm assuming because the puppet, they had light references and they actually put a little effort in.
And they had been doing it like when they back. I think they probably did this after Revenge of the Sith. They had mastered it like 2 times over at this point. So
wow.
Like they already had the model.
Jar Jar.
No.
Why
who cares
not?
about Jar Jar?
This movie apparently. This movie apparently at one point he's Qui-Gon Jinn's like, it would be a burden to take this handmaid with us. Why are you taking this fucking weird creature with you then, man?
Cartoon rabbit.
Dude, literally, Misa want to die. Yo, fucking kill him then. What's the problem? I don't understand what he wants to do all the time. It was very jarring. This is a 3 a.m. experience for me, guys. I got off this movie like several hours ago, and I was very just I know a lot of people dislike the kid. I thought the kid was fine. They had like some good line-ish deliveries. I don't think he was bad. I think it's just Star Wars. I bet if I was a kid watching it, that would have been a really cool experience of like, oh my God,
I love this movie as
he
a
looks
kid.
like me. Yeah. So,
I thought it was fun.
General overall thoughts. Dude, that made no sense. These better get better. But it's fine. It's not egregious enough for me to be like, fuck this movie, burn it to the ground. I don't know why they ever made it. It's like, man, fuck this movie. Burn it to the ground, I guess. Like, why'd they ever make it? It's like more of like a casual version of all those statements.
Sure. So Dan,
what's
as
your
someone
takes,
who
guys?
You say you love this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And honestly, so I do agree that it does jump into everything. Someone in chat did mention it. They do kind of, give you an entire novel at the start that explains where they are. But at the same time, the knowing that it's Qui-Gon Jinn doesn't have any purpose to the story. The point is they are Jedi Knights and they are going through and they are doing that. And I think that's all you really need to know, because at the end of the day, it really does not matter who they are as individuals, because we only know things about them because of extended lore, because of memes, because of stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they are just there as plot devices, as the Jedi Knights, to show what Jedi Knights do in this universe. That is their point. I enjoyed it. I did see it as a kid. I saw it when I was like 9 years old. So when I first saw it, it was super cool seeing these people with lightsabers like fighting each other. Like the action was really fun. Like seeing the droids with their shields and stuff like that. It was really, really fun like that. But honestly, I feel like a lot of current day complaints are very perpetuated by all the extended media around it, including spoofs that you get, people's opinions, how, like, all of that. I will say Jar Jar is very... It definitely is out of place feeling, because it is just a very goofy character with some very serious people. In regards, though, to the whole... why did they bring him along? Well, Qui-Gon Jinn has shown throughout the entire movie, and I actually kind of liked this, was that he always kind of believes that things are happening for a reason. Because at the same regard, why is he bringing a kid? Oh, because he had the feeling that there was going to be something there. Exactly. Like he has feelings, but like around these kind of stuff. And like at the very beginning, Qui-Gon even says to Obi-Wan, you have to be mindful of things. You do have to prepare for the future, but you do need to be mindful of the present and what it can lead to. And I think he sees these kind of things as it's got to have happened for a reason. And at the end of the day, it did. They wouldn't have known about. Well, he's actually like a huge key part, because without him, they never would have found the underwater city. They never would have had that connection to that race to be able to stop the war on Naboo. Like, and it's one of those ones that, like, the character is just very, very annoying, so it kind of makes you forget about that kind of stuff. But overall, I think it's a fun movie. Yes, there are flaws in it. Yes, it's got some weird, like, CG. Even before the CG, it had some weird stuff to it. But, I think outside of that, I thought it was a good movie. It's not the best movie, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as majority of people make them out to be.
Yeah. I will say this, like, watching it this time, I haven't watched it in a long, long time, and I think that it's not as bad as I remember it being. But I think my problem with it is that I just kind of fundamentally disagree with a lot of the things that George Lucas was like, okay, this is how the Star Wars universe works. This is what the prequels are going to look like. This is how they're going to function.
Midichlorians.
Yeah, we got midichlorians. We got Jedi being politicians for some reason. We got the entire movie is hinged on a trade war, which, like, what 6-year-old is going to be like, yes, trade wars. There's just a lot here that, like, I don't like, because this is the first time that we see how the Jedi Order looks and works and functions, and I'm like, I didn't want the Jedi to be like some weird religion cult founded on, like, celibacy and not having emotion. It's just weird to me.
How do you expect them to be powerful if they can either swing a lightsaber or they can get hard? Dylan, there's two options.
One of
okay?
the two.
Obviously,
your lightsaber
Anakin
can get hard, or you can.
Right. Exactly. That's why
Have
Anakin.
You seen Spaceballs? Because that's exactly what the.
Is that the plot of the movie over there?
It's the Schwartz. That's their lightsabers, and they do. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Continue, Dylan. I think you're on something.
No, it's just like it's hard for me to criticize this movie as an actual movie, because I just don't like a lot of the things where I'm like, that's stupid, is mostly just Like, that's an idea that's in this movie, but I can't really fault the movie for that being in it. Because it's like, yeah, that's what this movie is. They're saying, like, yeah, it's a... Like, sure, it makes sense. It tracks that, like, Palpatine is trying to create this blockade on Naboo so that he can rise to power and eventually, you know, blah, 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 for his own motives. Like, that all makes sense and it tracks. But it's just like, that's not interesting to me as a fan of Star Wars. It's like, I don't really care about politics in my Star Wars movie. And it's like, on top of that, like, everyone in the movie is kind of emotionless, which is such a shame. Especially, like, when you have Ewan McGregor in the movie, and he's so perfect in, like, everything he's in.
It's so young. When
And
the
he's
second he
tiny in
first
this
showed
movie.
up, I was like, oh
like,
my
wait a
God.
Such a
And then
young
they
man. Look at you.
for the entire second act, they just shove him into a ship and let Liam Neeson do his thing, and Liam Neeson's just, like, sitting there, like, saying words with no emotion behind them. It's like, all right,
Anakin,
seems like
I've
a waste.
decided to take you away from your mother. You will
Yeah,
train with
yeah.
me now, boy.
What's up with that? Why couldn't he just take her? There's literally nothing stopping him from just taking her.
You must honor the fact that she is a slave. Slaves stay slaves
No.
unless properly bought. Dude, aren't you a Jedi? Why you could just
Yeah.
kill all these people, man? Take
Exactly.
the mom.
That's
Yeah,
how you
it's like,
become
aren't you here to
Sith,
free the slaves?
Hassan.
That's how you become
no.
Sith? Well, sign
Yeah.
me the fuck up, okay? The dark side sounds fun. Does that mean I get to actually save people and not just
Right.
be some weird guy who talks in an accent that makes no sense? I'm Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson just talks like that in general, but
That's what's so
it's
strange
jarring.
about this is like they're so insistent that Jedi are like they're beholden to the Republic, and this will become more apparent in the next two movies. Is like the Jedi are basically just the army for the Republic, which is so stupid. And like Qui-Gon would go on to be like in expanded universe stuff, they would flesh Qui-Gon's character out more for like 2 lines of dialogue in this. Where like, oh, Qui-Gon's a gray Jedi and he's against the Jedi Order and everything. It's like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not in this movie.
Right.
He's
And
a gray Jedi.
yeah, it's a whole
There's
thing.
Jedis against the Jedi Order. Hey man, here's a crazy idea. Get rid of that shit. Doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it's working.
Burn
Motherfuckers
it
seem
all
like they
down.
get evil every once in a while, and that's not a good turnover rate.
Yeah, that's
Even
the
if
whole
it's
point of this
just every
trilogy.
now and then. It's just dumb.
Yeah, that like Qui-Gon and Maul, Darth Maul especially, just feel like a wasted opportunity to me because they both get
Darth
way more
Maul
fleshed
was,
out.
yeah.
Darth
Darth Maul got some good representation in Clone Wars, though. I will
totally.
say
That's
that,
what I'm saying.
'cause-
Is like him and
Yeah.
Qui-Gon both like they go on, and that's still canon, which is cool. But
Damn.
like that's obviously like Dave Filoni fixing the mistakes of these movies, where it's like they don't
Right.
flesh anything out. Like Darth Maul should have opened the movie. We should have opened with Darth Maul like training under Palpatine or something. Like have him be a consistent through line. He has 1 line of dialogue in this entire movie.
Does he actually talk? I forgot about that bit. I thought he was
talks
a mute.
once to Palpatine.
Darth
He's
Mute.
like the Jedi, blah blah blah, or something.
Oh,
Dude, I
that's
love
right.
I love the way he fucking jumps. Just jumps Qui-Gon Jinn. It was hilarious. It's like
He's
a
just like,
normal
"Hey."
scene and then yeah, he just jumps out of nowhere. I it's so stupid. I agree with you. I think so my issue with Star Wars as a whole is that it's this amazing concept that never gets too interesting. And and no disrespect to people who have loved it. I've liked parts of it. Like Mandalorian's really fun. I think Mandalorian is a really interesting watch. It's done really, really well.
Yeah, Mandalorian
But
gets it.
when I watch the rest of Star Wars movies, and I've seen everything but the prequel trilogies, and I think I watched, I think Revenge of the Sith as like a kid, like really, really young. I don't remember it really well, but it's like you could do so much. You've actually created an entire universe and planets and life forms. But then we always seem to tell this really, really boring cookie cutter story about these people that like are hard to give a shit about at times. And then there's the originals ones, right? And I'm a person who watched the original Star Wars trilogy at 20. So, or at 19 or 20. So I wasn't a kid at all. And
Right.
I didn't love those movies. I thought they were fine, but sometimes it was like, good God, how fucking slow can this get? It was exhausting.
They're very by the book.
They are.
And it's it's because they kind of are the book.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what movie I was watching, but I had that same thought about a movie where it was just like, yeah, this feels like a very by the numbers movie, but it was so old. It was like, well, it kind of is the reason why movies are like that today. And I think that's at least what's interesting to me about Star Wars is, like, I think about the original trilogy, and I think about how it is just a very black and white story about good and evil, and it's just the hero's journey, like straight up. And then, like, I get it that George Lucas wanted to do something more interesting. Like, he wanted to spice it up and have, like, shades of gray in there, because that's Anakin's whole story. But you just do it in a way, like, it's clear that George Lucas, as a writer, is just not capable to illustrate that in a way that is interesting to watch. Like when he sticks to, this is base storyline, and he has people telling him that, like, things aren't working, great. But when he has full reign to do whatever he wants and no one dares question him on anything because he's George fucking Lucas, we get these 3 movies.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the arguments, because people always come at me and they'll be like, well, they're from this year, so why are you criticizing it? Because I'm like, because motherfuckers will be like, it holds up. It doesn't. I think it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I think it's awesome. It's a part of people's childhoods. I think lightsabers are cool as all hell. I think I think there's some iconicism to every frame of these movies. I get it, and I appreciate it too. It's just like, as a story, as something to create intrigue and interest. Like, people will often compare Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe just because they're both so popular in the zeitgeist of pop culture, and now they're both owned by Disney. And I think that it's like, well, Marvel went from creating a couple lackluster movies that were still pulling in box office things to hiring directors like the Russo brothers for Winter Soldier, and then completely changing the narrative behind their movies, because then they went from genuinely great movies that are also about a really iconic universe that is created, versus Star Wars, which is still banking on its iconicism without ever innovating its story. That's my take on it. And that's not talking about Mandalorian, which I think was honestly perfectly shot, well done. And I didn't see the other thing that came out. I know there was another Star Wars series that dropped. Boba Fett. I didn't see Book of Boba Fett. I saw the Luke and so spoilers for Book of Boba Fett. I saw the Luke scenes from that, but I didn't spend a ton of time with it. And then I was a fan of the Clone Wars as a kid too. So those are great, but it's a lot of times it's just like, I don't understand why we do what we do with Star Wars, and like, why can't Jedis be a bigger parts of these movies? I get so, like, I remember watching the most recent trilogy, and I was like, dude, where's your fucking lightsaber? Like, why does it have to be in a galaxy far, far away? There's only 2 of these guys miles away. You disagree? I want to see more Jedis or more lightsabers. That's one of the things
well, you'll love the next movie then. But I feel like people are 2 camps in Star Wars fandom, where some people really, really like lightsabers and they want to see them as much as possible, and some people like me, and both are valid, but like me, I like the idea that a lightsaber is an extremely powerful weapon that you should treat with respect. And in the original trilogy, I think they do that, because like when you'll see in the next movie have hundreds of Jedi swinging their swords around randomly, it kind of diminishes like the power of a weapon that like unique and legendary, because it's like this, there's this mysticism to the Jedi and everything in the original trilogy, where like they're dead, they're a myth, the Force isn't real, and the lightsabers are like this relic of the past that the Sith have tried to bury, or the Empire have tried to bury, and so then you get a lightsaber and it's just like, wow, it's like finding the what's that thing? The golden thing.
The Holy Grail?
The Holy Grail. It's way more interesting to me, personally, when a lightsaber has power to it. And when like in this movie, the movie starts with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan getting scared by a sound, and they both stand up and pull out their weapon that can murder anyone it touches. And it's like, well, maybe it's like a cop pulling their gun when somebody sneezes. It's like, well, hold on.
That sounds like the South. Sorry.
Yep.
Sounds like home to me.
Dan, what do you think about power of lightsabers?
Well, so like I think one thing So first off, yes, no, I agree with the lightsabers. There's a very fine balance with it because it is something that's incredibly powerful. It is special and it's unique. And if you use it too much, when you've got something it's the classic when everyone's special, no one is.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a situation with lightsabers, and there is that fine balance.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big problems with the fandom and how the movies have evolved and stuff is how die-hard the Star Wars fandom is, because when it did come out the very first time, it was a game changer. Like, it was this new, like, generation defining movie and franchise. And I think, and this is kind of like why everyone's like, oh, the worst thing about the Star Wars franchise are the fans. And it's because people are too set in their ways. And so it becomes, the movies are like the lightsabers. It becomes a very fine line because you can't change it too much or you're going to piss off the majority of people that basically are the reason why your franchise is so big, because they were such big fans. But you're also missing out this new generation, and there's that huge fine line, because you did have, like, that was the big thing when the prequels came out. The prequels came out because everyone who had watched the original trilogy were like, no, wait, what? That's not what it was. That's not what it... And then the people who go back and watch the older ones are like, well, why doesn't this have this thing? What's going on with that? And then we got the newest trilogy. I almost said trequels. The newest trilogy, where they kind of were trying to balance and please everyone. And they were like, okay, so we're going to try and keep a lot of the cool stuff, but we're going to give it the vibe of the old stuff. And it just kind of became this complex mess of you can't please everyone. And that's why I think the biggest problem with the Star Wars franchise is the fans, because there's too many people in different camps. Because I'm kind of with Hassan. I love lightsabers. I love Jedi. Like that. When it comes to Star Wars, that's my favorite part. But I know there are people who are like, no, I want to see the bounty hunters. I want to see people who don't use lightsabers or anything like that. And my first eye-opening moment of that was actually when the MMO came out for Star Wars, The Old Republic.
Hell yeah.
Because when I was signing up for it, I was like, oh man, like I want to be a Jedi Sentinel, but everyone's going to be a Jedi. Like very few people were like, and that was the moment when I was like, oh, people don't care as much about lightsabers as I do. And it kind of is that big eye-opening moment, because I think Clone Wars was a big defining one, because they did go heavy into Jedi, the special effects, tons of lightsabers, and it did just get chaotic. And you have this entire dome, and then you're running into the problem of when you use it too frequently, you have to nerf it, because you now have this weapon that can literally melt through a giant metal door and takes it'll just cut through it like butter. And then you have like this creature that can take 30 hits from it and is like, haha, I'm still perfectly fine because my hide is apparently stronger than metal.
That's a good
Even
point.
though you guys clearly kill me all the time and don't utilize my skin as armor. Like, it becomes just that big problem of when you use it too much, there becomes too many plot holes. And so it's just Star Wars is a franchise of fine lines.
Yeah. No, I think you guys all bring up valid points. When it comes to the sequel trilogies, my biggest issue with it is I think actually like I really like the first one. What was it called? The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
I don't
Force
remember
Awakens
ever
is fun.
having. Yeah, I don't remember ever having any problem with it. My problem came in the second one. It just felt like everything that I knew to be Star Wars was like thrown out the window for the sake of. I
Throwing it out
fucking
the
told you
window.
guys I would change it up. Like Ryan Johnson's whole direction of
Yes.
like I didn't want to give it to him.
Oh my gosh.
So that upset me, and then I think
Movie's a mess.
I think it suffered severely by the time J.J. Abrams got back to it. Which I don't know J.J. Abrams to be a director that knows how to close things out. I know he knows how to set things up. So when he came back, it was doing a lot of damage control and not a lot of interesting ways. Like I think Finn as a Jedi is a great concept. I think you still focus on Rey because if you want it to be centered around this character that you've already chosen, fine. But there's like a really interesting thing going on with that character. So, watching the bones of this movie, I just feel like Star Wars as a franchise is very directionless, and that if they had an end goal, which I think these movies have more direction than the
they
sequel
do because
trilogy,
they
like
have
lot more.
they're prequels. Like they have to get to a certain point. And George Lucas is
they
very
already
clearly
know what their end point
they know
is.
where they're going.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the sequels, and we can talk about the sequels at another time. But like they didn't, and like Disney had no plan. J.J. Abrams had no plan. Nobody had any plan.
It blows my mind. It blows my mind that they did that. It's a
Exactly. Like
this
why?
movie's considered terrible, right?
Star
Like people
Wars.
hate this movie. People fucking hate this movie. It had a $115 million budget, and it brought in $1.27 billion.
Whew.
It's considered a shitty movie. How would you not create the most robust plan to make like an Oscar-worthy fucking Star Wars trilogy next? Mm-hmm. You have one of the greatest marketing machines that's ever existed. You're the greatest company that's ever existed. So it's a lot of confusion on my end.
So
I
like
don't get it.
It really is just like a whole lot of, because there are interesting ideas here, and I think like a lot of the stuff that they do in this movie is like it is a point of taste, right? And like how you're not, like you said, Dan, like you're not going to satisfy everyone when you're making a movie and your mantra is, I am going to start to flesh out this world that we've been looking at through a microscope for 3 movies. We're gonna blow it up. We're gonna say how we got there. And obviously people are not gonna like what you do. And some people will love it. And I don't, like I feel like Star Trek is the place where you do politics and like deep conversations about space relations. But even there, I mean, I haven't watched much Star Trek, but I feel like most of the time when you're watching an episode of Star Trek, the point of contention is not like taxes and trade. It's more like,
are you
what
telling me
does
the
this mean?
sanctions isn't your favorite part? I love watching filibusters and Senate hearings and like in the regular world.
in real
I'll
life,
often-
not in space.
I like to sit outside of Congress and just cheer it on while I'm watching a live stream. I love it. It's so
Of
interesting.
course. I just watch C-SPAN all day. That's all I do.
Why the fuck do people do that? My grandfather used to do that all the time when he was still alive, and now he's dead, and I think that tracks. What a boring way to
Oh,
go
no.
out. You just spend all your time watching C-SPAN.
That's their
Is that
drama.
too dark for this audience? Sorry, guys.
No.
Dan's like, Uzzin, you crossed the
Damn.
line.
Like, God damn, you really are going Sith side. No,
That's
man.
probably why this movie is like this, because George Lucas was watching C-SPAN all day, and he was like, hey, wait a
my
minute.
God.
I'm on to something.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I feel like that has to be completely accurate.
I think
I
that
wonder
is
how
because
he
he
feels
grew
about how this
up. Because he
franchise
was
is
like
now.
relatively speaking, he was a kid when he made the original Star Wars movies.
How old was
He
he?
was like mid to late 20s, I think.
Really?
He was a young director. This Star Wars was his big break. He was a very scrappy team, and that was the thing, is like nobody had without like, this is going to sound bad, but nobody had respect for the name George Lucas yet. So his crew were like, hey, do this, change this. Like
He was
like there are
33.
33. Yeah, that is extremely young for this industry.
He's 2 years older than I am. I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
doing
imagine
something
if you were
like that.
making Star Wars right now.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
I could do
And
it,
it's like,
Disney. Give me the
back
director's
like
shirt.
the things you hear about the original trilogy, like the stuff that was supposed to be in there originally, like Chewbacca. I think C-3PO was supposed to be like a green, like weird alien man, or maybe Han Solo was. One of the characters who ended up just being like regular was like, all of them were supposed to be weird aliens, like unrecognizable.
Right.
And it's like, but people like reeled him in. But then you get to this movie and George Lucas is like, hey, I want to put a cartoon rabbit in that makes fart jokes. It's like, okay, yes, George, of course. What are the final thoughts on Phantom Menace? I think it's fine as a movie, but it's a weird start to the prequels of Star Wars. Hudson?
Now, I want to see more lights. No, I'm kidding.
I don't
it was
think
good.
you
It was
deserve a blue lightsaber anymore after this entire discussion.
It's Anakin's. So
a
from
Sith.
Revenge of the Sith, that my cousin gave this to me when Revenge of the Sith came out, so
I got one too.
it's fitting
I got
because
Obi-Wan.
it should turn red very soon. There we go.
You want to
Ready?
fight?
3, 2.
Oh my god.
Mine's impotent.
Oh. Yep. All
Mine's
right.
impotent, dude. Like Anakin. No, he's a kid. That's not a funny joke. Look, the movie is fine. I think that a lot of this, I wish I could watch it through the lens of a child because I think a lot of it is really forgivable. I do agree. The politics stuff is just like weird that it's in a kid's, like, because it is so marketed towards kids, which I think is awesome.
Clearly a kid's movie.
And I'm not saying kids can't understand nuanced topics. I mean, Young Justice was originally a children's show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was still dealing with everything without being allowed to say it. Now it's allowed to say stuff. So it is weird that politics are such a big part of these movies, but you know, casting was fun. I don't love Liam Neeson. I don't think I enjoyed him on screen, but Jake
Well,
Lloyd,
dead,
he's got
so.
a bright career in acting. I can't wait to see what he does next. Natalie Portman was incredible. This guy kind of got me excited to see her as Thor. I think she's just fun. She's just I'm always interested of her on screen. She didn't have a lot to say or to do. But
She's really good. People just don't use her correctly in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like she's boring as
Yeah.
Jane, but hopefully
So
as Thor,
and then
she'll be great.
thankfully Ewan McGregor, even in this one, he doesn't get much screen time, but he's very fun. He's very believable, and This got me really excited to see Kenobi.
Yeah. He is an icon. He is the reason that you watch these 3 movies. So, in my opinion at least. Dan, final thoughts?
I enjoy it. I still think it's a good movie. I think people give it a lot of hate, and a lot of people jump onto that hate because it's the popular thing. And I think at
That's
the end
fair.
of the day, it's a good movie.
I will say
So.
the soundtrack in this movie is incredible, and droidicas are really cool.
Hell yeah.
All right. This has been our way too long talk about Phantom Menace. I mean, it's Star Wars. People go off the rails about
Yeah.
Star Wars. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about Kenobi soon when it comes out, and I don't know if we're going to talk about the next 2 movies, but we probably will because Hassan hasn't seen those. So stay tuned. Talk about those soon.